All right, so in this video, I want to talk about getting free products, having a photography oriented YouTube channel. Kind of how does it go? What is the process? How is it like working with these companies? What do they expect? What do you get? Is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? I was going to have an outline of what I wanted to talk about in this video, but I decided to just go off the cuff because I just want to be as authentic and as real as possible and just, pull back the curtains and really just give my insight into how all of this works. Okay. Now, the one thing that I know I have been asked quite a few times is, how do you go about getting companies to send you products? And there's two lanes. The main lane is you just create your content, they find you, and then they reach out to you. That really is the main lane, but you also can reach out to companies. I have reached out to a ton of companies. Most of them either don't respond or, I'm just not a fit for them because I don't have a large following. But you absolutely can reach out to a company, and I don't want to segue too much, but if you do reach out to a company, and I'll probably touch on this a little bit later in the video, but just in case I don't, if you do reach out to a company, you're going to have the best amount of success in showing value, right? So if you're just reaching out to them trying to get a free product, good luck. You got to show some sort of value to where it's worthwhile for them to send you the product. But anyway, speaking of, following, it really depends on the brand. Whether or not you need to have a big following or not. There are definitely some brands, your Chinese-based brands that don't have a large market share in the U.S. market, brands that are not very familiar in the U.S. market, or just very small brands in general. They will work with channels that have a smaller following. I've definitely seen videos with people who have under 1,000 subs get products that were sent to them for them to do reviews on. But then you also have the bigger companies, definitely your camera brands, companies like Small Rig, for example, DJI, even kind of June, those companies are going to want to have a bigger following. So it really depends on the company, but there definitely are companies out there that work with smaller brands. But as I was saying, generally, they just find you and they reach out to you. Now, how do they reach out to you? Email, typically. So, if you have a YouTube channel and they find you on YouTube, you would do very well to have a email address in the description of your video, because that is how they will reach out to you. Some will reach out to you via Instagram, some will reach out via TikTok. It really just depends on where they found you. And that's typically how they'll reach out. YouTube, if you don't have an email in your description, they don't have a way to reach out to you. So definitely add that in there. But typically, they're going to email, DM, whatever. And, they're going to have some fluff in there. You're going to be able to tell it was ChatGPT or, some sort of other language to English translation. And, they're going to say, we have this product. We would love for you to do the review, yada, yada. The biggest issue in that is that a lot of these companies will send you emails either from a Gmail account, or it is a marketing agency that is working on behalf of a company. There is a small percentage where you will actually get an email from a company email address. So those are very easy, but those are typically your bigger companies. So your smaller companies, you're going to get something from a Gmail. It is very difficult sometimes to decipher if it's legit or if it's not, because it's a random email. Usually it's a China market generally, at least for the photography space and the things that, that you would typically get in our industry. It's a China company, so they come up with an American name, but the email addresses are just all over the board. There's no rhyme or reason. Very hard to tell if it's real or not. So that's really the biggest issue that you have right off the jump, is trying to decipher if it's real or not. Now, if you're wondering why does it matter? Well, it matters because if a company wants to send you a product, obviously you've got to give them information for them to do so. You're going to have to give them an address. And so if you don't have something like a PO box or a designated space that you rent, you're going to have to give them your home address, which is not necessarily something you want to do when you have no idea who's on the other end of the email. So you have that issue. And then you also have the side of phishing and scams, right? Sometimes they'll send you PDF documents that they want you to review that outlines the product. There could be viruses attached to that. Sometimes they'll give you links to click for something, especially if they want you to sign up for their affiliate programs. There's going to be information that you have to give there. If you do sign up for the affiliate programs, let's say it's bogus, you do have to provide some way for them to pay you. So you're having to either give, PayPal information, bank account information. So throughout the process, there is a lot of information that you could potentially give up to somebody that's not legit. And unfortunately, there isn't an easy way to decipher. You really are kind of just following your gut and taking a chance. Now, from my perspective, I use a designated address that I rent every month to be able to use for my business. So everything goes there, and I don't do any affiliate programs. I've never signed up for any affiliate programs. Probably should, because I'm leaving some money on the table, but I've never signed up for any affiliate programs. I don't open any documents. So if they ever send me a PDF, I tell them just send it to me, give me the information and the email. I never open up the documents. So that's kind of how I do my due diligence. Because I have that rented address that I use, I'm not overly concerned about giving that out to someone. If they're bogus, there isn't anything there. So I don't really worry about it too much. But that's the first thing that you have to deal with. You kind of have to work through that. Okay. Now, the second thing that people have asked me is, how does it work? So they're sending you a product. What do you have to do in exchange? Like, how does that all go? So typically there's two ways that it can go. They will send you a product in exchange for a video, or they will send you a product in exchange for a video and they will pay you. Now, I'm going to talk about the pay part first, because that is the most elusive path, because they typically don't want to pay. A lot of these brands definitely have money. Okay. So if I back up, the reason why they're sending these products is simply marketing, right? So every company typically will have some sort of marketing budget. You're going to earmark a certain amount of money per year to market. And so in sending these products, it is essentially coming out of that marketing budget. Now, of course, smaller companies may have a smaller budget, bigger companies has a bigger budget, but a lot of these companies definitely have money to spend. They simply don't want to, and they will push back very hard, mainly because they can. There are a lot of creators that will take products and do videos just in exchange for the product. So there's no real incentive for them to pay. So being paid is definitely more difficult. And I will say you generally have to have a pretty large following. Really, you've got to be in the 5-figure number or more to really be able to get most of these companies to pay you money. Now, I have been paid from companies to do videos. I would say 50% of the products that I've received, I have been paid in addition to receiving the product. I don't know why I'm struggling to say that. So I've been paid in addition to receiving the product. The other 50% not. And the 50% not, typically I will. So the other 50% not, early on, earlier in, I was going to say in my YouTube career, I definitely don't want to say that. Early on, like when I first started getting products, it was exciting just to get products. So I never even said anything about being paid. It was just cool to get products that I didn't have to buy. So, if a company reached out, they were offering a product that I liked, I took the product, I did the video, no problem. As you continue to grow your channel, and especially if you are growing your channel with the intent to monetize, if you are growing your channel with the intent to build up a brand, if you are growing your channel in accordance with, your business or your brand, so your goal is to make money and to have sponsorship deals and that sort of thing. As you progress closer and closer towards those goals, you start to realize how much time you have to invest in creating these videos, and you start to realize that the product itself and value doesn't compensate you for your time. So you start to, request payment to be able to make these videos. Now, there's definitely been companies that have reached out to me. I send them my rate. They say, sorry, we don't have the budget. And that's that, because you get to a point where you don't really need these products. So it doesn't make sense for you to sit and invest, 8 hours of your time for $100 product to help them sell that product, and they don't want to pay you for it. So that's kind of the thing, which is a whole separate conversation. And that's something that, me and my guys have talked about a lot, and we really want to do a video. Maybe we'll go live on it because, these companies in a way really do exploit creatives, especially newer creatives. They exploit them because some of these companies will have a lot of expectations of what they want from you in the video. Now, the companies that have reached out to me, I don't really think I've ever had a company that had a list of expectations or requirements for the video. I would not accept the collaboration or even payment to do so. But I don't think I've really ever had a company that really had that. Typically, and I don't know if they've just looked at the content that I have on my channel, or if I've just not been reached out by a company that is more stringent with it. But typically they just want a video in exchange. They want me to just give my thoughts on it. Now, if you've followed my channel and you see any of the videos that I do that are branded, I have never been the type to do like the review videos. That's not my thing. I'm never going to do that. I'm not a gear heavy guy. Okay. I'm recording this video on a Canon 6D Mark II. Okay. I'm not the gear guy. I'm not the review guy. You send me a product, I'm going to use it in a real world case, and then I'm going to give my thoughts based off of that, because in my opinion, that's what I think works best. I don't think it really helps for me to regurgitate information that you can find online. So I just use the product in real world situations, and I give my honest feedback. And if I have cons, negatives, I'm going to mention those things. And so I communicate that to the companies up front, when I talk about, what I will give in exchange for the product. And I've never had any pushback on that at all. Okay. So going back to what I was talking about, being paid for videos is kind of the elusive path. It's not really going to happen that often unless you have a 5-figure plus or more following. Then you really have a better chance of negotiating money. Outside of that, it's going to be just product. Now, that's not necessarily a bad thing, because what you can do if you're only getting product. So before I even go there, so you have the pay route, then you have the product route. And essentially the product route is, we'll send you this product in exchange for a video. Pretty simple. But what you can do is, if a company doesn't have a budget, so let's say, for example, you charge $500 to do a video. If the company says, hey, we don't have the budget to be able to pay you $500, if it's a product that you want, you can negotiate. Now, what I typically will do if a company doesn't want to pay is I will say, okay, then I need you to send me X amount of value in product to do the video. So generally how that works is, if a company wants to send me something, I'm going to say you need to send me 2 or 3 of them, to be able to compensate me for my time. Now, mind you, I'm only going to collaborate with something that I see value in. I don't take any product that I'm not going to use and put into my workflow, because going back to what I said, I only do videos where I incorporate it into a real world scenario. So if it's not something that I personally can use, I don't take it. It really is that simple, because I'm not gonna, first of all, I'm not the most consistent with uploading YouTube videos in the first place. So I'm not going to take a product that I didn't have to do a video on that I'm not even going to use. And then I got to figure out, how can I use this in a real world situation? It's just way too much work. I have no desire. So I only take products that I can fit into my regular process or workflow or what I do. But if the company isn't willing to pay, I will just say, hey, you need to send me X amount. Now, I just had a company, and I got to do this video here within a week. Company sent me some inflatable lights. It was cool. It's a very small company. When I do the video, you're going to be like, maybe you've heard of them, probably not. Very small company. So they definitely weren't going to pay me. The reason why I took the product is because I just thought the concept was cool. I remember seeing some inflatable lights, like last year. And I'm like, I just want to try it out and see, but I'm not going to do a video for one inflatable light. So I had them send me 4 of them, because if I'm going to use it in a real world situation, one of them isn't going to be enough. And I had them send me 4 of their longer ones. One's not going to be enough. Send me 4 of them and I'll do a video. Give me something to where I can actually use it in a photo shoot, for example. And then boom, there we go. So that's how those 2 ways go, right? When the company reaches out to you, that's typically how it goes. again, in terms of the deliverables, it depends on the company. But for the most part, the deliverables are very low. They just want you to do a video, talk about the product. Usually they want you to include a link to where someone could buy the product. And then sometimes they'll say, can you put the product name in the title or in the description? All things that aren't a problem. I have never let a company see a video beforehand. And if a company requests you to do so, you should push back on that 1,000%. Because the one thing that you have to keep in mind is that if you are building a YouTube channel, if you're doing a YouTube channel, you're trying to build an audience. So by building an audience, I don't mean paying for subscribers and paying for views, because that's not building the right audience. And also, I don't mean just posting videos to get views, to get subs that isn't really conducive to the audience you're trying to build. If you are being very intentional with building an audience, trust is super important. And so what you don't want to do is put out videos endorsing a product that you either shouldn't be endorsing, can't truly endorse because you haven't used the product, or you're not being forthright about negatives because the company wants you to speak positive. You don't want to do that, because the minute that your audience realize that that's what you're doing, you're going to lose a lot of trust. That is really one of the biggest problems with YouTube today, is that a lot of people just don't trust creators anymore. Some of the creators that people have followed for years and years, they no longer trust, because they are what the industry calls shills. They get paid to make a video. They say good things. Every new product they get is the best thing. It's my new favorite. It's this, it's this, it's this. And you just can't trust them. You know, it gets to a point where it's just like, oh, okay, this company sent you this. Of course, you're going to speak highly of it. And sometimes they'll mention some little random con, or it'll be some of the most obscure con in the world that you're just like, wow, why would you even, like, who cares about that? So that's really one of the biggest problems in YouTube right now. So if you're really building an audience, trust is super important. And so if a company wants to review the video before you post it, it's because they want to make sure that you're not saying anything that they don't want you to say. Now, sometimes it'll be because they just want to make sure something wasn't misinterpreted, or sometimes it's like, you know, oh, this is a pre-pro model, so there could be this, that, and the other. But I would say push back 1,000%. You know, at the end of the day, if they're sending you a product, you have to give your honest opinion, your honest view. Now, there's a whole thing on being unbiased versus biased. And, you know, there's this whole conversation of, you know, it's impossible to be unbiased when somebody sends you something for free, because even when you want to try to be unbiased, you still want to get more free stuff and, you know, yada, yada. I get it. But, you know, at the end of the day, I do feel like for the most part, you can be unbiased if you want to. You know, you can talk about the things that are negative, and you can talk about things from your perspective. Of course, someone else may see it differently, because how they would use it would be different, or their expectations can be different, or what they would need out of it could be different. But at the end of the day, you know, just be honest with your audience. If you're truly trying to build an audience that is going to support you, and at the end of the day, buy the things that you're putting in front of them, which is always going to be a plus. You know, if companies are sending you things and your audience are buying those things, that is going to help you with that company. Okay. So in a gist, that's how it works. In terms of, you know, time and doing the video and all of those sorts of things, every company has kind of their different expectations. Some companies ask, you know, can you have a video uploaded within 14 days? Some companies will say, hey, this is a product that's being announced on this day. Can you put your video out on this day? Some companies don't really give you a timeline. So it really just depends on the company. Do what works for you, commit to what you can commit to, but it's all over the place in terms of the time. I've never really had anybody request a certain length of video or anything of the sort. So that's that. Now, all that being said, I think the unfortunate part of getting free products or videos is that, as I mentioned earlier in this video, a lot of creators will do videos in exchange for just the product. And a lot of times the product just doesn't have a lot of value, right? If you're getting a $50 product to sit down and record a YouTube video and all of the prep work and all of the time that it takes to edit, you're really not being compensated for your time. And it makes it very difficult for creators that want to get paid for this content to be paid. It's kind of like in the model world right now. It is hard to get models to pay for your services as a photographer. I'm sorry. It's hard for, what am I trying to say? In the model world, it's hard for models to get paid. That's what I was trying to say. I'm way off of that. It's hard for models to get paid right now because there are so many models, and I say that very loosely. There's so many models that will do shoots for free that for them to charge, it's hard to make money as a model these days because people will just go with models that are free. And there's a lot of attractive models that are free. And so we really are seeing the same thing in this space. There are so many creators that will create videos just in exchange for products that it makes it difficult for creatives to actually get paid to create that content. And that really is how it should be. Because again, these companies are reaching out to you to market their product. They hope to sell that product and make money, and you're not really getting any money from that. Now, of course, you have affiliate links that helps you make some money, but that's, pennies on the dollar. So really, at the end of the day, we should be getting paid to create this content, but it's very difficult to do that. So I do hope that change. Again, I think that's going to be a conversation that I'll have with my guys in more detail because we've got some strong feelings on that. But in a nutshell, that is how this works. Now, you definitely can reach out to brands. Just make sure that you're showing value. If you have a specific product that you want, mention that product and then say, in exchange for this product, this is what I will give you. Be prepared for a lot of no's and non-responses, but you definitely can have some success. I've done that. I've had success. So there is that. So my camera is going to shut off because, I'm using this old camera. So I still got the 30-minute limit, and I started recording and then I stopped halfway and started over. So if you have any questions or anything that you want more information about, drop it in the comments. I will answer whatever questions you guys have or give you any information or insight that I have into how this goes. So if your goal is to get products from companies, good luck. And the best thing you can do is just create solid content and be consistent with that, and the brands will come. And make sure you put an email address in your YouTube description. That's very important.